Let's speak with former Israeli government spokesman Eylon Levy. Eylon, good afternoon to you. I mean, look,
Hi, Ian.
For what it's worth, I'm sure you're aware of this, there's a lot of people in deep shock in this country that our government have gone there. But what do you make of it? As a former government spokesman, as an Israeli, as a Jew, what is your response to this?
Well, I'll answer you as a British expat. Today, the Palestinians raised their flag outside their new embassy in London, but the British flag should be flying at half-mast all the way down Whitehall, and that's because the British government has brought shame and dishonor on the country. Hamas is praising this decision as a victory. You understand what that means? The terrorist jihadi organization that launched this war is welcoming the British government's decision and says it's a victory. And it can't say it wasn't warned because they already said that recognition is one of the fruits of the October 7th massacre. This is rewarding them for their decision to launch this war. It's vindicating their decision to launch this war. It's encouraging them to keep holding onto those hostages, and it is encouraging it to perpetrate more barbaric atrocities. This isn't going to bring peace closer, and we all want peace. It's sabotaged any hope of a ceasefire that will see Hamas free the hostages and lay down arms, and it's pushed away the hope of peace. Because what reason does Hamas have to free the hostages now and to lay down its arms when Keir Starmer has just given it a reward for waging this war and is making it even more popular?
I'm guessing, Eylon, I don't know what the heck goes on in the mind of Keir Starmer. Frankly, I never have done on anything, but that's a whole other story. But on this specific area, he would say, look, this is about the future. We're not recognising it now, so nobody need panic. We're not acknowledging Hamas as legit. We're simply saying that going forward, if things can be settled, two-state solution, whatever, then we will recognise it. How does that wash with you at all?
But that isn't what Keir Starmer has said. Britain has now officially recognised a state of Palestine, even though David Lammy said it doesn't exist. They've recognised a state they want to bring into existence, which maybe should as a result of peace talks, but it doesn't exist. What this does is vindicate Hamas's decision to launch this war. It won't save Labour at the polls, it won't do anything for Keir Starmer at the polls, but it will give Hamas a big poll boost, because it will mean that the decision to launch this brutal war and hold hostages will have been vindicated. And so it's only sabotaging any hope of a ceasefire. And I think it's shameful. You know, I remember just a few days after Hamas invaded and massacred Israeli families in their homes, the British Parliament lit up in the colours of the Israeli flag. And it was an incredibly moving statement of solidarity when Britain understood that the jihadi psychopaths who launched this war had to be removed from power, and the hostages had to come home. And it's really shameful to see Britain folding now, whether under domestic political pressure or trying to scrape a few more votes off the bottom of a barrel, and trying to force Israel to end the war with Hamas still in power and the hostages still trapped in Gaza. By the way, the hostages' families wrote to Keir Starmer just before the recognition. They said, please don't do this. You're going to seriously complicate the ransom talks to get them out. And he clearly threw that piece of paper in the bin.
Even if he'd said, look, if all the hostages are released, we might consider X, Y, and Z. I'm not suggesting that would have necessarily been a good thing either, but had he said that, there were an obvious caveat of consideration and the urgency around this, you know, we would be sitting here perhaps having a different conversation, but there was no reference to hostages.
Even worse, Keir Starmer mentioned the hostages in his speech, but he suggested this was somehow going to help get them out. The opposite. This dooms the hostages inside Gaza. I mean, the British government told Hamas to keep the hostages there. When Keir Starmer gave his ultimatum to Israel, he said, if you don't end the war by September, we're going to recognize Palestine. Well, how is Israel meant to end the war when Hamas is still shooting rockets from Gaza? How is it meant to end the war when Hamas is still holding on to hostages? So Hamas heard that, sat back in the tunnels, rubbing its hands, saying, all we have to do is hold the hostages till September and Britain will give us a prize. And here it is.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I look at this decision and you scratch your head and you wonder what the thought process is. Was it just political? Mr. Starmer and others will say, well, you know, there's 120, 30, 40, whatever it is, other countries that have taken this decision. What marks this out as any different? What is your reaction to the wider community on this, Eylon, who have clearly reached a similar decision as Starmer?
Look, Britain has a degree of serious moral authority, and that's because Britain is an Israeli ally. It's not like Ireland. No one here really cares what the Irish have to say because they've been implacably hostile since forever. But Britain is an Israeli ally. And when this war began, Britain stood by Israel's side and said, we back you. You have to bring down Hamas and you have to bring back the hostages. Unfortunately, we've seen a vicious information war being waged against Israel, accusing it of everything under the sun, famine, starvation, genocide, literally everything, all to try to force it to end this war with Hamas still in power. And it's disheartening, therefore, to see Britain, which had held firm until now, succumb to that misinformation, succumb to that pressure, succumb, frankly, to the desire to win more of the Muslim vote in the UK when it sees that most of the political map's been coloured turquoise for the next election, and throw an ally under a bus. And the crazy thing is this sabotages not just Israel's security, it sabotages Britain's national interests as well. Because if Britain wants to bring peace to the Middle East, if it wants a ceasefire, it's just given Hamas every reason to dig in its heels and keep fighting. This pressure on Israel to end the war is only encouraging Hamas to prolong the war. And that is why Hamas is welcoming this as a victory. Yeah. So it's a dark day of shame for British foreign policy.
Eylon, very strong stuff. Thank you very much, though, for brilliantly articulating the kind of anger around this decision. Eylon Levy is a former Israeli government spokesman.